And yes, we are. Thank you. Okay, so now we can begin with the topic. So, as I was saying at the beginning, we are having an interesting topic about one of those topics that we normally deal with in the conversation is the conversations that we have at our speaker club. But of course, we present this free live for everyone to see to get to hang, you know, get the gist, a little bit of some of the content that we work here, some of the thought process that we use when we address any issue that we want to, any concept, any situation that we use for our the whole process of language acquisition. That is, how we actually make our, what we do. That's the matter of our matter, the matter of our business. So, in that sense, welcome to make any comment regarding the topic. That will be very interesting for feedback in our, you know, in order for us to grow a little bit better with what you guys think of everything that we get to say. Because not only what we say, most of the things that we say, it's basically because of experience that we've had with you guys, people that we worked with before, students of ours, and anyone at the end of the day, everyone that we get to meet, um, that see how we use our method, how we use how we implement all the different things that we use in the process of doing the things that we do, which is helping people in, you know coming across better in a different language, whether this is English or Spanish. That's basically what we do here at A-létheia. And now, tonight, without further ado, we have forgiveness and dealing with remorseful feelings. All right. You see, of course, when speaking about topics like this, we need to give a little bit of a context, and we need to basically clarify that we're not really speaking about forgiveness from the perspective of, let's say, religious. Hello, how are you, Bao? I hope you enjoy tonight. If you have any question, please, you're welcome to make any comment. Okay, so continuing what I was saying, we're not wanting to say anything regarding, a religious process. We can actually use the religious perspective of forgiveness simply as a reference of what we are meaning by forgiveness. If, for example, you know about it, but again, it's really not our intention. We far from that, and of course, we will not really disregard any other perspective of forgiveness if at the end it allows you to perceive the concept from a practical perspective. What I mean by this is that, again, this is not some sort of critique against any principle that there is already existing of what it is forgiveness. We're speaking about forgiving as, let's say, a humane situation that you will have to you'll have to deal with one day or another. As you are a human being, and you deal with other people, and when you deal with other people, you hurt other people and you get hurt, willingly or unwillingly. And whichever principle you use to deal with these issues about hurting, we'll have to conclude eventually with the idea of forgiveness. So that's the approach we're trying to make here. If you will, you can even say that is more anthropological than anything else. Of course, I cannot really speak about that without really giving a personal opinion, a personal situation of how I have seen forgiveness on my own. I think that one of the things that you get to understand about forgiveness is that it puts you in evidence as a human being. The moment in which you have to forgive someone, you definitely have to forgive yourself. You're gonna have to learn how to forgive yourself, because um, you know that if someone is capable of inducing any type of pain, any type of hurt feelings towards you, well, the same can happen from you towards them. You know, and we when we're speaking about forgiveness, I'm not really referring to the bad stuff, like uh, having been a victim of murder, rape, or robbery, important ones, because everybody gets robbed day to day by simply just the prices that you have to pay for certain things. But I'm not referring to that. I'm speaking about once it's hurtful, it's wrongful. Um, uh, when that happens, saying forgiveness is not that easy, and you will probably say, like, I mean, you'll probably be thinking me that I am trying to distinguish that type of action from the type of action that deserves our forgiveness, and it is supposed to be like this. And I'm referring to just the puny little tiny things that we tend to do to each other. Like the extra elbow we have sometimes when we cross through a crowded area and hurt the other person with, and not really because we want to, but then again we could have been much or less, sorry, sloppy in our approach, and that's obviously not preventing that to result as some sort of hurt or wound or injury or simply an insult to another person. So I will have to make examples on my own. Let's say it normally happens if you live with other people, if you deal with other people in daily basis at work, and you have to face them constantly, that there are manners that differ from this person to from you and the other person. You know, the other person doesn't necessarily have to be from a different country to say that they have different ways of seeing life. I mean, obviously, if you're from a different country, you have a different culture, a different reference of values that might make you see certain things from a different perspective. Obviously, everybody knows about this, but we are speaking about being human in general. It doesn't really matter what country you're from. If you're empathic with the other person, you know when you say something that makes the other person feel bad, you can see the reaction of the other person. And of course, unless the other person is perfect at faking, having a poker face at everything that you say or do. um, well, if you deal with those sort of people, it's different, but I'm speaking about the normal circumstances. In normal circumstances, we know that if you wound somehow a person, if you hurt that person's feelings for some gesture of your own, some reaction of yours, some badly placed word. Uh, because at the very end, it's not about the intention; it's just about the timing. That sometimes we are sloppy in that, just the timing of how we say certain things, how we do certain things. If we're speaking about those things in general, that's the type of forgiveness I want to address, because that's the one that we need the most today. We all need that type of forgiveness, since we have too much of the other type, the bad one, the one situation in which we have to forgive a person that really wounded us, a person that committed a crime against us, a person that have hurt us or make us have made something of us, something that belonged to us, belonged or at least represented something important for us. If that person represented us losing that, well, that other type of forgiveness is necessary as well, but it's not that easy to be justified. So I want to address that very at the end and not for too long. I'm just gonna mention stuff that is related to the conclusions I will have with the first part, and try to attach them to the last part as saying that it's necessary. So just bear with me when I, try to make this mental exercise of trying to justify a reason of forgiveness. Where do I base my reason for forgiveness? It's the same situation that once Lacan, Jacques Lacan, have word before about the idea of jealousy. He's saying that jealousy is simply a pathology, as there is no way that you can justify, healthy mental behavior of a person that that suspecting that a person, that their lover or husband, wife, spouse was cheating on them, just because of the suspicious of the action of cheating or being cheated at, then reacting on an angry, emotional way uh, towards, again, that person, the person's spouse. That is jealousy. And we all know that it's a situation that happens to anyone that have had a loving relationship. And Lacan defines this as if it is something that is pathologic, because in reality, even if the person that is your spouse, your lover, is cheating on you, you cannot really see that thing happening in your head, even if sometimes that happens. But you cannot really see that thing happening in your head as if it is something that has to do with you. That reality that you are given to something that is just, again, a ghost, something that is not really happening, but that reality you're giving to it is fooling and fueling some emotions, and and making track of situations that will develop in something that is not going to help your relationship with the person that you, again, are having this loving relationship. That's the reason why it's a pathology. That's something that Zizek actually mentions in his book of violence, and then he reaffirms on his book of Less Than Nothing. Eh, but using the same principle, I will have to say that forgiveness gets connected to the same idea of, the traces that a person, the traces that of the actions that a person has done that have made you feel hurt. Okay, so when that happens, have uh, when you have those remorseful feelings that were the consequence of something that you did not like, that the other person did, just in that moment, that when that happened, you can say that, uh, well, you can try to say that it didn't really matter. But then again, you can, if you know that the way you look at the person has been affected by how you felt at the moment, you can say that yes, you are holding something against that person. And as you are, you can say that that's a nick to your armor. I mean, that's a form in which a threat to the harmony that that relationship is supposed to have. And that can actually be accumulated. You can have many of those chips, many of those different things that make the balance of the relationship tilt to the side that you don't want. And we all know how, for example, marriages, how fragile marriages are. They're not supposed to be. In the past, they weren't. In the past, even though, well, that history says that it was more difficult to divorce. Once divorce was established, it became more and often and common that people opted for divorcing. And people will know or argue that yes, it's because lots of different relationships at the time didn't really deserve to be kept for years and years and years. But we all know that old couple, those two old elderly people that still live together, that married in over 50 years ago, and they managed to live well during all those years, and you can see that in their faces that they're happy. Those ones that managed to end up together for long, all those long years, they're definitely happy. So whatever religion you belong to, whatever ideology you have, at the very end, you want to have the best type of life that you can actually get. You want to, die of old age seemingly happy. And that will not be possible if you don't have ways to keep those that you love close to you. Because when there's a lot to forgive, and there's a lot of different issues that have not been resolved like that, then obviously there's a lot of remorse. So we use this other philosopher that's really important for the way we use our the way that we approach to these type of problems, and it's Baruch Spinoza. Baruch Spinoza, in his um, treatise of ethics, uh, he mentions how um, we get to address something, anything, a stimuli, from the perspective of how it makes us feel, in the perspective of our reason, what we think is logical, and our emotional, what make us feel alive, or the opposite to it. So whatever give us a visceral impulse, give us basically that energy to life, and that's what Spinoza refers to the conatus. It hype ups your conatus. It makes you feel invigorated. It makes you feel that you want. So as long as that object makes you feel like that, hello, Shamey, come back. Thank you for coming um, over. And whenever if you have a question, please shoot. So again, whatever that thing that you get to see and makes you feel invigorated, that is what is spiking your conatus, according to Spinoza. On the other hand, then you have your logic, what you consider according to the set of rules of your consciousness after growing up as a person, after being educated. Whatever you consider is supposed to be right, that's your logic. That's the order of ideas, and your logic obviously determines when something clicks on the right side and when something clicks on the wrong side. So of course, that situation that you perceive, if your logic says it's not correct, it will make you drop on the perception of what you're supposed to do. And there is when you have the situations of how we address certain things. We address certain things, sometimes calibrating between these two feelings, the feelings of what's logical, what is supposed to be correct according to what you know, what you have agreed on, using science, or simply the common sense that society establishes. And then you have your conatus, what it makes you feel viscerally from within. That is sometimes, well, that is sometimes not. That is what always happens, but you can get to see that sometimes you, or most of the times, you have like different levels of discrepancy between those two. Like sometimes your logic is really supporting one thing, whereas your conatus at the same time is not so much. And the opposite happens as well. An example, studying, for those of you that are students. Well, actually, everybody that studies, including myself. Studying the rules, studying the norms, studying the grinding part is most of the time a hassle. And as it is a hassle, it in conatus doesn't really make us feel that attracted to it. And but we all know that we need to grind. We need to grind on the logos of whatever it is that we're studying. We need to get the theory well. We need to crack down on every concept. We know that that is only benefit. It's supposed to give us benefits, but we don't. Again, we don't do that so willingly. We refuse till the very end in most of the cases. Of course, There are people that are so motivated that we, all of us admire them, but we know that that's not the common people. Most common people normally relinquish any type of effort. So as long as you have to make an effort, you don't have that conatus all there with you, supporting you. It's mostly your logic that is supporting you. So of course, the better you are, is the better you convince your conatus to actually enjoy that process of doing that thing that you need to do, which is, for example, studying. And like that, you can apply it to work. You can apply it to your personal responsibilities, etc., etc., etc. You can also apply that to pleasurable things. You know, there are certain things that will give you more pleasure than others. There's some people that enjoy going to church. True, there are people that enjoy going to church. The fact of being in front of lots of other people that are professing the same faith and ideology, maybe many of them don't actually believe in the same thing, but they just love the sharing idea of being a church. Well, those people enjoy that situation, but they feel mortified when they see that many of the people surrounding them have such crazy ideas about life, as it happens at church. The same situation can be in other different circumstances, as you know, toxic behavior that many people have in different areas of our lives, like for example, work. You can have, the stereotypical good employee that is always complaining about stuff. And you say, why is it that these people don't really enjoy what they're doing, but then how come they're so good at doing what they do? So obviously there's some sort of out of balance between that conatus and that logic and that sense of ideas, according to Spinoza, if we want to see it from that perspective. If that's the case, considering all the things that we have mentioned from the logical context that we want to give it, let's see it personally. When we feel hurt, whatever happens to us, whatever other people do that make us feel hurt, the more we keep it to ourselves, the longer the hurt is going to be. We all know that. But somehow, some people do manage to enjoy the process of withholding those feelings, so they can have a very last and a big outburst of, you know, deserve anger, deserve, um, let's say, deserve tantrum, for instance. Some people enjoy that. Some people enjoy giving tantrums, making a scene. But at the same time, we all know that when you do that, when you make a scene, when you make a tantrum, you simply just spoiling that image of yourself that sometimes you struggle to make better, according to, all the different actions that you do for self-improvement. Those of you that consider self-improvement as something important. Hey, I'm not really speaking about rocket science when I mean self improvement. I'm simply just saying, if you live your life trying to do the best that you can, that is obviously a sign that you want to make things better for yourself, and that obviously means self improvement. If you work out, you want to improve the way you look. If you want to the way you look and the way you feel. If you work on your mental health, again, you want to improve the way your mind processes things. If you try to have your family and friends closer to you, you want to improve your social connections. That is self improvement. That is never wrong. That is never really bad. But the more you are connected to people, the more you are exposed to be hurt by other people. And you will say, why? Well, because people are not perfect. You're not perfect. I just think about myself. Like when I was younger, I could have been, let's say, rougher in the way I treated some of my friends. I could have been inconsiderate with my many of my relatives, including my mom. I know for sure I did. I know for sure she did too. I know for sure she did get to say, and I do remember many rude words towards me. And I sort of acted in an undeserving way as a kid, as a son. And of course, I can tell that my relationship with her is not perfect. It could have been perfect if I had learned about this a little bit better. Even though, there was that knowledge that we all have about forgiveness being good, etc., etc., etc. The yada yada that comes with religion, with culture, and with other different things. Forgiveness is only good when you actually have to forgive, when you actually have to live it. And you will see how compelling the feeling is of that burden being lifted off from you in the process of saying, like, yeah, I mean, I understand why that person did that. I understand the person's heart was not really wrong. I forgive that person. When you do that, such weight off, such weight off. Again, I get to see the drive that it is for people to withholding bad feelings and then letting them all go in one moment. But I know for sure what consequences that it conveys, that it tells, and that's terrible. Got the case of a situation that happened to a student of mine recently. I saw how I could swear that I was reading my students' feelings in the process of his outburst. He did that, withholding those feelings for a while about what he had towards another kid. Maybe he have felt bullied by this kid before, but it was the wrong timing in the moment that he decided to, having one of these tantrums, one of these outbursts, because he considered that he was wrong for some reason. And the outburst was so awful that I know that when he was doing what he was doing, he in his head he was screaming, saying, "No, why am I doing this?" But the same energy, the same intensity of the shout that he was using at the moment that he was saying no is what drove him to go all the way, to completely mess himself up in front of everybody. And at the very end, his tantrum just simply put him run in front of everybody. After he spent over a full year of trying to bond and connect to everyone. It's so sad. It's so tragic because I know how everyone meant for this guy. In that moment that he just slipped, that moment after holding back so many different things, he decided to let them go just because he just couldn't forgive that person. He just couldn't let it pass. How many times have we put ourselves in trouble because we couldn't let it pass? Think about this. I mean, all the way from a car crash, that guy that caught us in, and we tried to take the lead again, and we ended up, you know, chipping the other car from the back and having to, pay the repairs because it was our loss. That's a very silly example, but like those, how many times have we insulted a person that we love? How many times that insult have led us to sometimes even break up with that person? How many times just by being rude we have actually broken up a relationship that could have been better? Simple. I'm simply referring to friendship, like spoiling it. How many times has that happened? If you think deeply about your lives, you realize how many times you've been sloppy with the way that you have dealt with people. And as such, you know that that can happen all the time. As, for example, our toxic behavior as guys, we tend to be very rude all the time to our friends because we think it's good. I mean, our friends love us. We love them. We're supposed to be respected by them, and we respect them by sometimes bully them a little bit. That's a toxic behavior. Certain circles is higher than others. Not every person receives that bullish attitude, that level of friendly rudeness. No, not everybody receives that in the good way. There are days and days. Some days you tend to be more receptive than other days. But if you believe that everybody is supposed to deal with your attitude just because they are your friends, you're simply just making them accumulate a bunch of those things. So mm, obviously, you must for sure owes a couple of apologies to some of your friends, relatives. That's for sure true. I know I have. I know I do still. Every time that you know, I've taken this upon myself to meditate. And every time that I'm doing any type of mechanical um, work, any type of really uh, cyclical or really uh, non-thought provoking type of action that I work on here at home or at work, I use that moment to also meditate to actually kind of like trying to kill two birds on one rock. And because as the action I'm doing doesn't really require much of a thought process, I can use that time to put my thought process in situations that are required to consider. That's good. That's the best thing about meditation. And I get to think about my day today, And from time to time, I meet those moments. I meet those moments that I found myself messing up my image in front of everyone by something really stupid that I did or said in a really, in the worst moment possible. That happens. When I think about it, I found myself even bursting words, like blurting words out aloud. You know, that happens to me all the time when I'm washing dishes, and my wife gets to see me like, "What the hell am I saying?" Because I get to say, I blurt like some senseless phrase, could be in English, in Spanish, or whatever. I can't control it. It's like Tourette for me. But when that happens, is because I just found myself having said something, yeah, thinking, I think and I get the image of myself having said something awful or terrible to another person or something that could have been misinterpreted by the other person, something that could have been insulting even, and it's terrible if that happens. And as that happens, I started thinking back years of my life. And I realized that I have done this for long, long, long years to many people that I know. And I know for sure that the fact that they tolerate me, I mean, they still speak to me, is because they do have that level of patience that only parents have when with their kids because they love them and they forgive them so often for all the silly, rude things that kids normally do. We teachers have the same thing too because we teachers, those that work in a classroom, take care of a bunch of different kids, not ours. We act like their parents. Some sort of a stepfather or simply just a tutor type of father doing the time that we have them. Sometimes we have them for many hours. Sometimes we are the only one with a really, really huge group, and all of them trusting us with their lives, security, emotions, education, etc., etc. And we get to see sometimes the best and sometimes the worst in many of them. So after the years when we see them graduated, after the years of graduation and we get to see them in their faces, it is always awkward for them because they know all the mess up things. Many times a student has come to me and said like, teacher, forgive me for all the silly things that I did in the classroom. I was a kid. I said like, come on, I know you were a kid. I know my parents did the same. How many different things they probably forgave me for? So many that I cannot really just think through that much. So just for the idea of, karmatic balance of the world, I need to forgive as much. I simply need to forgive as much because my parents, uh, they're not holding anything emotionally, uh, negatively towards me. And that's the reason why they're still nice, great with me. I know that I should do the same to other people, for sure. If they haven't really hurt me that bad, I mean, we separated that before. Those that really hurt us, that made us lose something, compared to, the typical offense that we have from time to time with our relationships. When we go through those moments, we really deserve the freedom of the burden of the remorseful feelings. We don't need those. That's a drag that is totally um, making us taint the glass through which we see the world, making the world smell uglier, awful. It's not really worth it. So, simply considering that aspect, you can relate to the same thing of, those ideologies that different religions or, different other schools of thought have about what forgiveness is supposed to be. But in reality, it's an idea of releasing yourself from those emotions, from those burdening things that make you sometimes lose yourself in stupid behavior, in completely stupid behavior. Because then there is that thing about honor that we sort of sometimes use to justify stupid behavior. Like when we feel insulted, we want to defend our honor. Like, what honor in reality? Like if someone made us seem like we were this type or that type, but we're not. That person said or made people think that I am a thief. How do you know that person made other people think? Well, because the person was suggesting. Well, the person could have said that you were a thief, but did the person prove it? No. So are you a thief? No. But then, why should you care? Well, because other people will not do stuff with me because they will think that I'm a thief. Well, maybe you don't deserve to deal with those people. I know you think that that's too easy to think of, to judge the situation. But in reality, when things are too complex, the best way is to think easy. Really, don't complicate your life. Not necessary. The best way is not having the burden with you all the time. If you want to have those people that you love close to you, why should you make them feel awkward because of your terrible behavior that only you justify in your head? It's not really needed. Now, briefly, on the last part, the group of people that actually hurt you. How much can you control the life expectation. No, sorry, that's not what I meant. The consequences. Sorry, how much can you control the idea of consequence in general of um, you know that situation that happened because of that person that wronged you. Let's say somebody robbed you. Somebody did something even worse. Somebody, let's say, murdered someone that you love. There's nothing that the person can do that can compensate the feelings. Let's say robbery, not even that person paying for the same item that that person robbed will make you feel satisfied of that feeling of frustration, mainly anger and helplessness that it comes to being mugged. For example, if you were mugged or robbed, in case of somebody is stealing something huge from you, a car, property, etc., etc. If someone wrong you, physically, if someone, let's say physically, for example, what type of satisfaction can you have? Using the law of the eye for the eye, tooth for tooth, really, what type of satisfaction it is killing a person because that person killed someone that we love. Logically speaking, emotionally speaking, you cannot really justify it. You will still have the emptiness of your loss. So the level of forgiveness is not really on behalf of the person that you're forgiving, but it's on behalf of the love that you had for that thing you lost, as that memory is supposed to be um, something that you cherish. So I guess that would be the only argument I could use in order to defend the idea that we also should consider forgiving others, the people that wrongly did us, you know, they give us a reason for us to hate them. That would be the only argument. The fact that if you did have that thing that you love, that thing that you lost, that thing that you uh, don't cannot appreciate anymore, that person was responsible for you having lost that. You cannot really control that thing that you lost. There is really no satisfaction in that person paying. You needed to learn something, the something that comes with the experience of going through loss, any type of loss. That person was the bridge to that. This sounds a little bit like Jedi stuff or Buddhism, but it's not. It's just simply pragmatism. You need to simply let go, and the process of letting go is also forgiveness. So, for the sake of that thing that you love and lost, you all should consider forgiveness. You do not really require trauma, more trauma. We are surrounded by it, and the world is not really getting better. But that's also ideology. That's the way people make us believe. We, if we consider everything from the terrible perspective, everything's gonna look terrible all the time. It is us, the ones that give the perspective to the things that we see. The more remorseful feelings that we are holding, we are carrying around, the more we're gonna be dragged by negativeness. That's as simple as it is. So yeah, forgiveness is an action, uh, therapeutic, similar to the ones that you have to do in order to avoid feeling jealousy. Well, kind of like the same thing, like releasing that person from that unnecessary guilt. Okay, will help you more than what the other person actually concerned for anything. So with that, we're reaching an end on tonight's dissertation on the idea of forgiveness and dealing with remorseful feelings. Now, remember, people, that the whole purpose of these talks that we have every Friday, understanding that we have the Q&A every other Friday, is mainly to present you guys with some of the topics that we deal with here at the Speak Up Club. You know, we have the Speak Up Club here by A-létheia, and we got Wednesdays, we got Saturdays, we got other days waiting on quorum people that want to join us. If you're out there, if you are interested in improving the level of your English performance at the moment that you speak, write, read, etc. If you want to improve, if you already have a level but you can't seem to improve for some reason, you seem to you're lagging still. Well, we're here to coach you. That's basically our service. We're not really just simply teaching, we're guiding. So come on over, join us, leave us a comment here in Instagram or YouTube if you're interested if you're interested in forming part of the Speak Up Club. And with that, I see the rest of you for next week Q&A. Bye bye, people. Have a great one. And here we're out like this. Yes. And in YouTube, we're out. Oh, we got two viewers. Hello, people. Well, bye bye, people. I hope you had a blast as I did myself. Bye bye.